Chapter 1. Rejected by Alpha, claimed by his rival. The night was supposed to be ordinary, but Aurora had long stopped believing in ordinary. At 23, she lived in the shadows of the Crescent Moon Pack, an omega at the bottom of the hierarchy, invisible to everyone except when they needed her to clean up their messes. Tonight, though, the air felt different, charged, restless, as if the forest itself held its breath. She stood at the edge of the bonfire circle, trying to disappear into the sea of bodies. The annual mating ceremony was the one night Omegas were allowed to attend, though not for their benefit. It was a spectacle, a chance for alphas and betas to display dominance, to let the moon goddess guide their souls to the ones chosen for them. Aurora had come only because the elders demanded it. She tugged nervously at the hem of her worn dress, the fabric borrowed from another omega who had outgrown it. Her heart thudded against her ribs, too fast, too loud. Something inside her whispered that tonight would change everything. Then it happened. Across the firelight, his gaze collided with hers. Hunter Blackwood, the alpha heir. The crowd seemed to dissolve, the crackle of flames dimmed, and the pull hit her like a punch to the chest. A mate bond. Immediate, undeniable, soul deep. Aurora's breath caught, her knees weakened, the world tunneled down to his eyes, storm gray, sharp, and filled with something she couldn't name. She knew it too. She could feel the echo of recognition racing through him, but instead of stepping forward, instead of claiming her, Hunter's lip curled, disgust. You? His voice carried easily over the hushed circle, cold and sharp as a blade. The moon goddess must be blind. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Aurora's stomach twisted, heat flooding her cheeks. I reject you, Hunter said, loud enough for every pack member to hear. An omega like you will never be my mate. The bond seared, tearing through her chest as though claws had ripped her heart in two. She stumbled back, her hands shaking. Laughter rang from somewhere in the crowd. Others whispered, eyes gleaming with cruel delight. Aurora forced her head high. Even as her vision blurred, she wouldn't cry. Not here, not now. Rejection accepted, she whispered, her voice steadier than she felt. Hunter turned away as though she were nothing more than a bug he'd stepped on. He strode toward the beta daughter waiting eagerly at the front, who smirked in triumph as he wrapped an arm around her. The ceremony moved on, but Aurora's world had already ended. She backed away from the circle, step by shaky step, until the firelight vanished. Only when the firelight vanished did she let herself sink to her knees, clutching her chest where the bond had burned through. The rejection should have killed her. Omegas weren't strong enough to survive a broken mate bond, not usually. But though she bled inside, though the pain threatened to shatter her, something deeper stirred in her veins. Something old, something powerful. Her breath came ragged as her hands pressed to the earth. The soil trembled beneath her fingertips, faint, like a pulse waiting to awaken. Aurora jerked back, terrified. What was happening to her? Before she could think, a low growl sliced through the trees. Her head whipped up. Eyes glowed in the shadows, golden, feral, unblinking. A wolf, massive, larger than any she had ever seen. But this was no ordinary wolf. He stepped into the moonlight, and the breath left her lungs. Not Hunter, not anyone from her pack. This was a stranger with midnight black fur streaked silver, his power rolling off him in waves so strong it pressed her into the earth. An alpha, but not just an alpha, something more. The wolf shifted before her eyes, bones snapping, body morphing, and within seconds a man stood there. Tall, broad, with dark hair and eyes like liquid gold. His presence commanded the night, made the trees themselves bow toward him. "You should not be out here alone," he said, voice low, rough with authority. Aurora scrambled to her feet, her heart hammering. Who are you?" His gaze swept over her, lingering on the faint shimmer of the broken bond still etched in her aura. His jaw tightened. "I heard the rejection," he said simply. Pathetic. He was a fool. Aurora froze. Shame burned her skin. "You shouldn't." Before she could finish, he turned closer, his scent wrapping around her, smoke, pine, danger. Her wolf, weak though it was, stirred violently within her. Recognition. Not a mate bond, no, that's not possible. But something primal tethered her to him in that moment, something that made her bones hum. He stopped inches from her, tilting her chin up with a single finger. "You're stronger than you know," he murmured, "and you don't belong to him. You never did." Aurora swallowed hard. Then who do I belong to?" His golden eyes darkened, flashing with something both dangerous and possessive. "Me." The word rung through her, a claim more binding than any rejection, and before she could breathe, the night shifted around them. Somewhere in the distance, a howl split the air. Chapter 2. Aurora's heart thundered at the stranger's claim. The word echoed in her skull like a word carved into stone. Me. He didn't even know her. He couldn't. Yet his presence wrapped around her like change, unchosen, undeniable. I don't even know who you are," she whispered, her voice breaking on the edges of fear and something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The man's gaze didn't waver. Golden, molten, consuming. "Dominic Blackthorne," he said at last, each syllable heavy with command. Aurora stiffened. Every tale she'd ever overheard around kitchen fires or whispered by omegas in the shadows spoke his name with a mixture of awe and terror. The Nightshade Pack was no ordinary enemy, ruthless, merciless, led by a man who'd rose from nothing and carved his empire with claws and blood. He was whispered to be more beast than man. And now he stood before me, claiming me with nothing more than a word. Her lips trembled. "Why? Why would someone like you care about me?" Dominic's expression flickered, something unreadable passing through his eyes. He stepped closer, and Aurora instinctively pressed back against the rough bark of a tree. His hand rose, not roughly, but with a gentleness that startled her, as he tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Because I heard your scream," he said simply, "the kind only and the rejected mate makes. And because," his tongue brushed the faint mark at her collarbone where the bond should have sealed, "you've survived. An Omega shouldn't have survived that kind of rejection, not unless—" Aurora's breath caught. "Unless what?" "Unless there's more to you than what they made you believe." The air between them thickened. His scent smoke, pine iron coiled around her senses, igniting something deep inside her. Her wolf, fragile as it was, stirred with ferocity she didn't recognize. Heat coursed through her veins, sparking under her skin. Aurora tore her gaze away. I don't want to belong to anyone, not after tonight." Dominic's jaw tightened, but he didn't force her. Instead, he leaned closer, his lips grazing her ear as he spoke. "You don't get to choose fate, little wolf, but you can choose what to do with the power it gives you." Before Aurora could respond, the snap of branches erupted from the darkness. A group of figures emerged from the trees, men in crescent moon colors. Hunter's men. Their eyes glowed faintly, their wolves straining beneath the surface. "There she is, the rejected little Omega. Alpha Hunter wants her back." Her stomach dropped. Panic clawed at her chest. Hunter, even after rejecting her, he wouldn't let her go. Dominic stepped in front of her, his body a wall of steel. His voice dropped to a growl, the kind that rattled through bone and marrow. "She doesn't belong to him." The intruders hesitated, exchanging uneasy glances. Everyone had heard of Dominic Blackthorn. Facing him meant death. But the leader, a broad-shouldered beta, sneered anyway. "She's Crescent Moon property. You're trespassing, Blackthorn. Walk away while you still can." Dominic's lips curled, revealing the faintest flash of fang. "Try and take her and you'll learn exactly what trespass costs." Then the night exploded. The beta lunged, claws flashing, but Dominic moved faster than Aurora's eyes could follow. 1 second, he was in front of her. The next, the beta was on the ground, throat crushed beneath Dominic's hand. The others hesitated, fear sent thick in the air. Aurora couldn't breathe. He was terrifying, unstoppable. And yet, when he looked back at her, his gaze softened for just a fraction of a second, as if she were the only thing keeping him tethered. "Run back to your alpha," Dominic snarled at the survivors, releasing the broken beta with a shove. "Tell him she is under my protection now." They fled into the forest, dragging their injured leader with them. The clearing fell silent, except for the pounding of Aurora's heart. She pressed a shaking hand to her chest. "Why did you do that?" Dominic turned, wiping blood from his knuckles without flinching. "Because no one touches what's mine." Aurora's knees wobbled. "I'm not yours." The corner of his mouth lifted, not a smile, but something darker. "Not yet." Her breath hitched. Heat coiled low in her belly despite every rational thought screaming that this was wrong. Hunter had rejected her. Dominic was her enemy. And yet, her wolf stirred again, louder this time, pressing against her skin as though urging her towards him. Aurora shook her head, desperate for air, desperate for distance. "I need to go." She turned, stumbling through the trees, not caring where she ended up. Anything to get away from his consuming presence. But even as she fled, the echo of his words followed her like a brand. Not yet. By the time she reached the edges of Crescent Moon territory, the night had grown heavier, the stars veiled by clouds. Aurora collapsed near the riverbank, her chest heaving. Her reflection stared back at her in the rippling water, her eyes glowing faintly, brighter than they had ever glowed before. Her breath froze. Omegas didn't glow. Not like that. She staggered back, her heart slamming against her ribs. Dominic's words replayed in her mind. "Unless there's more to you than what they made you believe." Could it be true? Could she be something else? Before the thought could settle, a chill raced down her spine. The air shifted. Someone was behind her. Aurora spun, only to find Hunter himself stepping into the moonlight. His storm-gray eyes burned with fury. "You thought you could walk away from me?" he snarled. Chapter 3. Hunter's voice sliced through the night like a whip, dripping with venom and fury. "You thought you could walk away from me?" His eyes gleamed silver in the dim light, his wolf straining beneath the surface. Rage rolled off him in waves so thick, Aurora could taste the bitterness on her tongue. Aurora's chest tightened. She took a step back, the river lapping at her heels. You don't get to decide what you mean to me, Omega. You're mine whether I claim you or not. The words seared through her, not because of longing. Those feelings had been burned to ash, but because of the audacity. Even after tearing the bond apart, he wanted to control her. Her hands curled into fists. I don't belong to you. Hunter's smile vanished. He closed the distance between them in a flash, his hand wrapping around her arm hard enough to bruise. You'll regret defying me, his voice lowered, sharp as claws. You thought I wouldn't notice you with him, Dominic Blackthorne, my uncle? Aurora's head snapped up, eyes wide. Your uncle? Hunter's grip tightened until she gasped. Stay away from him. He's poison. He'll use you to get to me, to this pack. And when he's done, you'll be nothing but ashes. Before Aurora could answer, a growl erupted from the darkness. Low, lethal, vibrating through the earth. Hunter froze. Slowly, his head turned toward the shadows. Dominic stepped into the clearing, golden eyes blazing, power rolling off him in suffocating waves. He looked every inch the predator he was whispered to be. An alpha with no equal, a man who bent the night itself to his will. Let her go, Dominic said calm and deadly. Hunter's lip curled, but he didn't release her. She's mine. No, Dominic's tone sharpened, reverberating like steel against steel. You rejected her. You made her bleed. You have no claim. Hunter bared his teeth. And you think you do. Dominic's gaze flicked to Aurora, and for a moment she swore he saw softness beneath the gold. Then his focus returned to Hunter. Yes. The word cracked the air like thunder. Hunter snarled, shoving Aurora behind him as though shielding her, but she knew the truth. He wasn't protecting her. He was challenging Dominic, staking ground he had no right to. You'll regret stepping into my territory, Uncle. This Omega means nothing. She's weak, a stain. If you want her, take her. But know this, you'll start a war. Aurora's wolf stirred restlessly, anger surging through her veins at his words. Weak? Stain? Always the same. But this night, the insult cut differently. Because beneath her skin, something else stirred. Something ancient. Aurora's body trembled as Dominic's grip steadied her, his golden eyes locking her in place. The river stilled as if obeying him, or maybe obeying her. Silver sparks still danced across her skin, soft and trembling, but the wild surge had slowed, anchored by his touch. Breathe, Dominic commanded. His tone was sharp, but it pulled her back from the edge. In, out, focus on me. She obeyed, pulling ragged air into her lungs until the haze of panic cleared enough to think. The glowing in her veins dimmed, retreating like waves pulled back into the sea. Finally, she sagged against him, her forehead brushing his chest. I don't understand, she whispered. I'm an Omega. I'm nothing. This shouldn't be happening. Dominic's hand moved to the small of her back, his touch surprisingly gentle for a man who had just crushed bones with ease. You've been lied to your entire life, he said. You're no ordinary Omega. That power doesn't belong to the weak. Hunter's growl ripped through the clearing. Stay away from her. Aurora flinched at the sound, instinct pulling her to look at him. His storm gray eyes were fixed on her, wide with something she had never seen there before. Not cruelty, not mockery. Fear. She doesn't know what she is, Hunter spat, his voice raw. You think you can swoop in and twist her into weapons? She'll burn herself alive before she learns to control it. Dominic turned his head slowly, his expression carved from stone. And whose fault is that? Hunter froze. You knew, Dominic said, his voice a low rumble of accusation. You knew what she was, and instead of protecting her, you broke her. You rejected her. Because you were afraid. Aurora's breath caught. Her gaze snapped to Hunter, searching his face for denial, for any sign he hadn't been keeping secrets from her all along. But he wouldn't meet her eyes. His silence was louder than any answer. Aurora stumbled back from both of them, her chest heaving.
You knew? She whispered, her voice trembling. You knew I wasn't just an Omega, and you still... Hunter's jaw clenched. I was trying to protect you. By humiliating me in front of the entire pack? Her voice cracked, silver light flaring faintly along her arms again. By tearing me apart and leaving me to bleed? Hunter reached for her, but Dominic stepped between them in a blur, his presence blotting out everything else. His golden eyes pinned Hunter with pure threat. Touch her again, Dominic growled, and you'll lose the hand you dare reach with. Hunter's wolf snarled in his chest, but he didn't move closer. Instead, his voice broke with frustration. He'll use you, Aurora. That's what Dominic does. He doesn't save, he claims. And once he claims, he never lets go. Aurora's pulse skittered because part of her knew it was true. Dominic was not gentle salvation. He was fire and steel, dangerous and consuming. She could feel it every time his gaze lingered on her, a possession that went in deeper than the bond she had lost. Dominic's hand brushed her shoulder, drawing her back to him. Better to be claimed by power than left to die in weakness, he said, his voice rich and dark. Her skin burned where he touched her, her wolf pressing against her ribs as though desperate to crawl into his warmth. I need answers, Aurora said finally, stepping out from between them. Her voice shook, but determination edged it like a blade. I don't care about your feud. I don't care about your pack wars. I need to know what I am. Both men stilled. Hunter's shoulders sagged. For a flicker of a second, he looked almost human, like the boy she had once thought her mate could be. You're dangerous, Aurora, he said softly. Too dangerous. If the others find out, they'll hunt her, Dominic finished coldly. They'll fear her, which is why she needs me. Aurora's hands shook. And why should I trust either of you? One of you rejected me. The other wants to claim me like I'm property. Dominic's gaze didn't soften, but his words did. Because I'll give you truth, even when it burns. He stepped closer, his heat sinking into her skin. You're not just wolf. You're hybrid. Half-blooded, the strength of a wolf and something older, something the moon goddess buried in your line generations ago. That's why the bond didn't kill you. That's why the river answers to your call. Aurora's knees nearly buckled. Hybrid. The word struck her chest like a hammer. She wanted to deny it, to laugh at the impossibility, but the glow in her veins told her it was real. Hunter's voice broke through, desperate. Don't listen to him, Aurora. He's twisting this. You don't understand what hybrids mean. They're cursed. They're hunted for a reason. Dominic snarled, silencing him. They're hunted because they are stronger than any alpha, stronger than any pack. And she, his hand closed gently but firmly around Aurora's wrist, she is mine. Her heart stopped at the word, her blood sparking like fire beneath her skin. Don't, she whispered, her voice barely holding. Don't claim me like that. Dominic's thumb brushed her pulse. His golden eyes darkened. It's already too late. Aurora tore her hand free, stumbling back, desperate for space. No, I don't belong to either of you. Not anymore. Both men stared at her, one with fury, the other with unreadable hunger. She turned and ran, her breath ragged, her wolf screaming inside her chest. The trees blurred, silver sparks spilling from her skin, as though her body couldn't contain the storm. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away before either of them swallowed her whole. But as the forest closed around her, she didn't realize she wasn't running alone. Something darker than both alphas stirred in the shadows, eyes glinting with hunger, tracking her every step. Chapter 5. Aurora sat by the window, staring at the moon as if it held answers she desperately needed. Her heart was torn between two forces pulling her apart. Hunter had been her first love, the one she thought destiny had chosen. But destiny had been cruel. He had rejected her, humiliated her, and left scars that Dominic had slowly started to heal. But Dominic wasn't just a man. He was a storm. He carried danger in his blood, power in every step, and shadows in his gaze. Yet with him, She felt alive, seen, cherished, something she had never felt in all her time with Hunter. Still, fear lingered. Could she truly trust Dominic? Or was she stepping into another trap dressed in passion and promises? Her fingers brushed over the mark on her neck, the bond Dominic had placed on her. It pulsed faintly, like a secret only her heart could hear. The door opened behind her. Dominic's presence filled the room, commanding yet gentle as he approached. "You're awake," he said, his deep voice carrying warmth. Aurora turned slowly, her chest tightening at the sight of him. His eyes searched hers, and for a moment she forgot how to breathe. "Dominic," she whispered. "Why me? Why claim someone already rejected? You could have anyone." He stepped closer, his hand lifting to touch her face, his thumb brushing over her lips. "Because you're not anyone, Aurora," he murmured. "You're fire in a world full of ash. Your strength disguised as fragility. You were never meant to be his. You were meant to be mine." Her chest ached at his words. They carried a truth she wanted to believe, but shadows of doubt still haunted her. Before she could respond, Dominic leaned closer, his lips brushing against her ear. "You'll see soon enough that I'll protect you from everyone, even from Hunter if I must." Aurora's heart stuttered. The thought of Dominic and Hunter clashing sent chills down her spine. Two alphas, one bond, and her caught in the middle. Destiny wasn't finished with her yet. And as the night deepened, Aurora realized her story was only just beginning. Chapter 6. The next morning carried a tense stillness. Aurora stepped into the garden of Dominic's estate, her bare feet brushing against the dew-soaked grass. The mansion behind her felt both like a fortress and a cage, her thoughts tangled like threads. Dominic's vow to protect her, Hunter's betrayal, and the secret bond burning beneath her skin. She felt trapped between two worlds, both dangerous, both impossible to escape. "Running won't solve anything," Dominic's voice cut through the morning air. Aurora turned sharply. He stood near the stone archway, his tailored shirt unbuttoned at the throat, revealing a hint of strength beneath. His gaze was fixed on her, not as a captor, but as a man who refused to let her go. "I wasn't running," she said softly, though her tone betrayed the truth. He walked closer, each step deliberate. "You're still afraid of me?" "I'm afraid of everything," Aurora admitted, her voice cracking. "Of choosing wrong, of being broken again, of losing myself." Dominic's eyes softened, though the storm in them never faded. He reached for her hand, his touch grounding her. "You won't lose yourself. Not with me. I see you, Aurora, not as his mate, not as a prize, but as the woman who deserves more than pain." Her chest tightened, tears threatening her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not even Hunter, when love was still new between them. Before she could respond, a sharp sound echoed across the grounds. Howls, wild and urgent. Aurora froze, her body trembling, as memories of the night Hunter rejected her surged back. Dominic's grip on her hand tightened, his jaw clenched, his alpha presence radiating power. "He's here." The word sent a shiver of dread down Aurora's spine. Hunter had found her, and this time he wasn't alone. Chapter 7. Aurora had never felt the night so heavy. The moon sat fat and silver above the manor, casting long shadows across the marble floors as she padded through Dominic's home in silence. The house itself was alive with whispers, ancient walls steeped in history, or perhaps secrets. She should have been asleep, tucked safely in the room Dominic had given her, but her body refused rest. Her thoughts spun endlessly. The way Dominic's lips had lingered on hers, the way his touch had set her skin aflame, the way he looked at her as if she wasn't broken but whole. And yet, questions clung to her. Why had his eyes darkened so suddenly earlier when Hunter's name was spoken? Why had his men stiffened when she asked about the rival packs? And why, when she had walked past his study last night, had she heard muffled voices arguing about something Dominic didn't want her to know? Aurora's instincts, honed from years of rejection and survival, screamed at her. Dominic was powerful, yes. He was protective, yes. But men with power always kept shadows, and shadows always demanded a price. Tonight, she would learn the truth. She slipped down the hallway, careful not to wake the guard stationed outside. The manor was silent, except for the faint ticking of an antique clock. She followed the glow of faint light until she reached a heavy oak door, Dominic's study. The crack beneath the door pulsed with the dim flicker of candlelight. Aurora leaned closer, her heart hammering. Inside, voices. She doesn't know Dominic. If she finds out, it could ruin everything. Aurora froze. The voice was low, raspy. She didn't recognize it. She'll find out sooner or later, Dominic replied, his tone clipped, colder than she had ever heard. But by then, she'll be bound to me, claimed. Aurora's breath hitched. Bound? She deserves the truth, the other voice pressed. No, Dominic snapped. The truth will destroy her, just as it destroyed her parents. Aurora's world tilted. Parents? Her parents had died in a rogue attack, or so she had always been told. She clutched the wall for balance, her pulse roaring in her ears. Dominic knew something about her family, something about her blood, and he hadn't told her. She backed away from the door, her chest tight with betrayal. How many lies had wrapped themselves around her life? Hunter's rejection had nearly killed her, but Dominic's deception, if she was hearing it right, cut even deeper. As she stumbled back toward her room, a shadow moved in the hallway. Aurora? She spun, her heart lodging in her throat. Dominic stood there, tall and unreadable, his white shirt half undone, his expression caught between surprise and suspicion. "What are you doing up?" he asked softly, though his eyes sharpened like blades. Aurora swallowed hard. "I couldn't sleep." For a moment, silence stretched. Dominic studied her, his gaze lingering too long, as though he knew she had heard. But instead of pressing, he reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. His touch burned and soothed all at once. "You're safe here," he murmured. "That's all that matters." But the words no longer brought comfort. The next day dawned gray and tense. Dominic left for a meeting with his lieutenants, leaving Aurora restless in the manor. The storm inside her only grew heavier. She wandered to the gardens for air, her thoughts warring with one another. Was she foolish to have trusted him so quickly? Foolish to let her heart lean toward the same kind of man who had once broken her? The crunch of gravel behind her snapped her head up. Aurora. Her blood turned to ice. Hunter. He stood by the iron gates of the garden, his dark hair falling into his eyes, his smirk familiar and venomous. He looked more dangerous than she remembered, more desperate too. "What are you doing here?" she hissed, glancing around for guards. "They can't hear us," Hunter said smoothly, stepping closer. "Dominic's men are loyal, yes, but even they can be bought." Aurora's heart thudded painfully. "Stay away from me." Hunter tilted his head, studying her. "You look different. Stronger. Did you think running to Dominic would save you?" He chuckled, low and cruel. "Aurora, Dominic isn't your savior. He's worse than me." "Liar." Hunter's smirk deepened. "Is it a lie? Ask him about your parents. Ask him why he kept the truth from you. Ask him how much of your fate he's already decided without you." Aurora's knees weakened. Hunter leaned in close, his breath ghosting her ear. "You were mine once, Aurora, and I don't care if he's my uncle or my alpha. I'll have you again, one way or another." Before she could move, a sharp whistle split the air. Guards rushed in, snarling, and Hunter slipped back into the trees like smoke, vanishing as quickly as he came. When Dominic returned that evening, Aurora waited for him in the grand hall. Fury and fear warred inside her. "You knew," she accused, her voice trembling but strong. "You knew something about my parents, about me, and you didn't tell me." Dominic stilled, his jaw tightening. "Aurora, don't," she snapped, cutting him off. "Hunter was here. He said you've kept secrets, that you've already decided my fate without me. Tell me the truth, Dominic. Now." His silence was louder than any words. Aurora's chest cracked open with betrayal. Tears stung her eyes, but she held his gaze, refusing to crumble. "Everything I've done," Dominic said at last, his voice low and rough, has been to protect you. Protect me? She whispered. Or control me? Before he could answer, the manor doors burst open. One of Dominic's men stumbled in, bloodied and gasping. My lord, Hunter has allied with the rogues. They've crossed the border. He's coming for her. The room fell into chaos, but Aurora's world had already shattered. She looked at Dominic, torn between love and doubt, between safety and betrayal. For the first time, she wondered if Hunter was right. Chapter 8. Shadows of Truth. Aurora had thought the night before would have brought her peace, but instead she woke to the weight of questions pressing against her chest. Dominic was still asleep beside her, his strong arm wrapped over her waist, as if even in sleep he was afraid to let her go. His face looked softer like this, free of the shadows that haunted him when awake. She studied him, torn. She loved him, of that she was sure, but love did not erase fear. Dominic was powerful, ruthless when he had to be, and though he had saved her, claimed her, and given her safety when she had none, he still carried secrets. Secrets had teeth, and she could feel them, circling. By the time Dominic stirred, Aurora was already dressed and standing near the window. He sat up slowly, running a hand through his hair, his sharp eyes immediately finding her. "You're awake early," he said, his voice husky with sleep. Aurora hesitated. "I couldn't rest. Dominic, there are things I need to know. About you. About what you're hiding from me." The softness in his eyes hardened instantly. For a moment, she thought he might shut her out. But then Dominic sighed and rose, pulling on a shirt. He crossed to her and cupped her chin, forcing her to meet his gaze. "You want the truth, Aurora?" His tone was low, edged. "The truth is that my past isn't clean. I have enemies. Men who would use you to hurt me. That's why I kept it from you. Not because I don't trust you, but because I don't want you dragged into it." "Dragged into it?" Aurora whispered, anger flaring. "Dominic, I'm already in it. I've been rejected, hunted, nearly broken apart. Do you think hiding things keeps me safe? Or does it just blind me until it's too late?" Dominic's jaw clenched, his silence answer enough. Before he could speak again, a sharp knock rattled the door. One of Dominic's men, pale and tense, stepped inside without waiting for permission. "My lord, he's here." Dominic stiffened. Aurora frowned. "Who?" The soldier's gaze flickered nervously to Aurora, then back to Dominic. "The ghost." The name dropped like a stone in the room. Dominic's expression darkened, the temperature seeming to plummet. Aurora's stomach twisted. "Who is the ghost?" Dominic didn't answer her directly. He grabbed his jacket, his movements sharp with fury. "A man I should have buried a long time ago." Downstairs, the pack's guards had formed a tense line. At the center of the room stood a tall, lean man draped in black, his face half hidden beneath a scarred hood. His presence was suffocating, the kind that made weaker wolves lower their heads without even realizing it. Aurora felt the weight of his gaze immediately, a cold smile curving his lips when his eyes landed on her. "So?" the man drawled. "This is the girl who softened the ruthless Alpha Dominic." Aurora stiffened at the mocking tone. Dominic stepped in front of her instantly, his voice like steel. "Stay away from her." The ghost chuckled. "Still so protective. But then again, you've always had a weakness for things you shouldn't touch." His gaze flicked to Aurora again, lingering too long. "You didn't tell her, did you? That you were once the very monster you're saving her from now?" Aurora's chest tightened. She turned to Dominic, searching his face. "What is he talking about?" Dominic's silence was deafening. The ghost smirked, enjoying the tension. "Your noble Alpha here forgets to mention he was once one of us. He ran with my pack, my men. He killed, he dealt blood for power. Until he betrayed us all. Until he betrayed me." Aurora's heart thudded painfully. She looked at Dominic, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. The truth in the ghost's words was clear enough in his silence. "You left out a lot, Dominic," she whispered, voice breaking. The ghost chuckled again. "And you think you can trust him now?" Before Dominic could respond, another voice sliced through the tension. "Enough." Aurora froze. She knew that voice. She turned, her breath catching when she saw Hunter step into the room, her former mate, her betrayer. And yet here he was, standing as if he owned the place, eyes burning with something she couldn't decipher. Dominic's growl was instant. "What the hell are you doing here?" Hunter smiled coldly, "Finishing what I started." His gaze slid to Aurora, softening in a way that sent shivers down her spine. "Aurora, you were never meant for him. You were mine, and you still are." Aurora's breath hitched, fury sparking. "You rejected me, Hunter. You humiliated me." Hunter stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Because I had to. Because if I didn't, they would have killed you." The room spun. Aurora stared at him. "What are you saying?" Hunter's smile turned bitter. "Dominic isn't your savior, Aurora. He's the reason you were marked to die. The ghost is only here because Dominic made enemies long before you came into the picture. And now, because you're with him, you'll pay the price." Aurora's hands trembled, torn between rage and fear. Was Hunter lying again? Or was there truth buried in his venom? Dominic snarled, stepping between them. "Don't listen to him. He's twisting things." Hunter laughed darkly. "Am I? Or did you forget to tell her the rest, Dominic? Did you forget to tell her what you did to her family?" Aurora's blood ran cold. "What?" The room erupted into chaos. Guards surged forward, Dominic lunged at Hunter, and the ghost only smiled, vanishing into the shadows as if his work was already done. But Aurora barely saw any of it. Her ears rang with Hunter's words. "What you did to her family." Her knees buckled, her breath sharp and broken. Dominic caught her, his eyes desperate. "Aurora, don't believe him." But the look in Hunter's eyes, the vicious satisfaction there, told her the worst truth of all. It wasn't a lie. Aurora's world cracked open. Chapter 9. Shadows of Betrayal. Aurora couldn't sleep. The night was heavy, each sound from the forest sharp against her nerves. Dominic lay beside her in the great bed of the Alpha's estate, his breathing even, calm. He looked so different when asleep, almost vulnerable, as though the weight of his reputation as the ruthless Alpha slipped away in dreams. But her heart was a battlefield. Trusting him was like walking a razor's edge. She remembered the documents she had seen, proof of his bloody rise, the betrayals, the whispered rumors of how he had seized his pack. He swore he'd do it all again if it meant keeping her safe. But if he could betray his own blood, could he not betray her too? Aurora shifted out of bed, stepping onto the cold stone floor. She padded toward the balcony, staring into the dark line of trees. Somewhere out there, she could feel Hunter. His bond with her wasn't faded, but it was tethered by history, by the years she'd spent believing in him, loving him, trusting him, before he rejected her. She wrapped her arms around herself. "Why can't I stop thinking about him?" Behind her, Dominic stirred. "You're awake." His voice was low, husky from sleep. Aurora turned, startled. "I just needed air." He pushed himself up, the sheets sliding from his chest, muscles catching the moonlight. "You're not safe out there, Aurora. He's close. I can smell him whenever the wind shifts." She swallowed hard. "Then let me face him. Running, hiding. It won't end this war between you two." Dominic's jaw tightened. He stood and crossed to her, gripping her shoulders with controlled intensity. "War between me and Hunter? No, this isn't just about him and me. This is about you. He wants you because he lost you. He wants you because he knows I claimed you. You're the prize, Aurora, and I." His voice dropped, almost breaking. "I can't lose you." Aurora's heart cracked at the rawness in his tone. He had walls, but every so often they crumbled, and she glimpsed the man underneath, the one who had been scarred, betrayed, hardened into the Alpha she knew now. She opened her mouth to answer, but before she could, a thunderous crack split the night. Glass shattered. Dominic moved faster than her eyes could track, pulling her behind him. 3 masked wolves in human form spilled onto the balcony, blades gleaming silver under the moonlight. Hunter's voice followed them like poison. "Step aside, Uncle." Aurora's stomach dropped. Dominic growled low, eyes blazing gold. Coward, sending others in your place. Hunter emerged from the trees, stepping into the moonlight with a smirk that twisted Aurora's insides. He was dressed in black, his eyes wild, his grin cruel. Not cowardice, Hunter said smoothly. Strategy. Aurora trembled as Dominic's grip on her hand tightened. But then Hunter spoke words that froze her blood. You think I only want her because you claimed her, Dominic? No. You've been keeping secrets. Tell her the truth, or I will. Aurora's breath hitched. What truth? She whispered. Dominic's eyes flicked to her, then back to Hunter. He said nothing. Hunter laughed. So you won't. Fine, then. Aurora, did he ever tell you what happened the night your parents died? Her world lurched. My parents? Dominic snarled, taking a step forward. Don't you dare. But Hunter didn't stop. They didn't just die in a raid, they were betrayed. Someone gave away their location, someone who profited from their deaths. His eyes gleamed as he pointed a finger at Dominic. Him. Aurora's heart shattered, the ground crumbling beneath her. She stared at Dominic, her body shaking. That's not true. Tell me it's not true. Dominic's silence screamed louder than words. His chest rose and fell, his face carved in stone. Aurora stumbled back, her legs weak. You knew? I did what I had to do to survive, Dominic ground out finally, voice breaking with rage and shame. Your parents were already marked. If I hadn't taken control the way I did, we would all be dead now, including you. But the explanation tore at her like claws. Hunter smiled viciously. See, Aurora? He's no savior. He's no alpha worthy of your heart. He's the monster who built his throne on your family's ashes. Dominic roared and lunged, but Hunter's wolves struck first. Steel clashed. Blood sprayed across the balcony. Aurora stumbled back, torn between the two men, between the truth she'd just heard and the bond she couldn't deny. She didn't know who to trust, didn't know what was real anymore. Hunter's eyes locked on hers as Dominic ripped through one of his men. Choose, Aurora. Come with me now, and I'll protect you from him. Stay, and you'll drown in his lies. Her chest heaved. The night spun. Dominic's growl echoed through her bones as he fought savagely, his body already bleeding. Hunter waited, patient, certain she would run to him. And Aurora, broken, trembling, took a step forward. Toward which man she didn't even know yet. Chapter 10. The forest was eerily silent, as if even the wind itself was holding its breath. Shadows stretched long beneath the pale glow of the full moon, and Aurora stood frozen between the two men who had torn her world apart. Hunter and Dominic, who had rejected her so cruelly, alpha whose claim had changed her destiny. Her heart pounded. Every nerve in her body trembled, but not from fear alone. Something deep within her, the part she had ignored for years, was awakening, demanding to be heard. The hybrid blood in her veins was no longer silent. Hunter's lips curled into a sneer, his eyes glowing with a feral light. You were always mine, Aurora. You were too weak to see it. Dominic only wants you to spite me. He doesn't care. He never could. Dominic's growl rumbled low, deadly, vibrating through the earth beneath their feet. He stepped forward, placing himself between Aurora and Hunter, his broad shoulders casting her in shadow. Careful, pup. The only weakness here is yours. You had her heart once, and you destroyed it. Now you'll see what happens when a true alpha protects what's his. Aurora's breath hitched at his words, but she didn't speak. She couldn't. Not yet. Hunter snarled and lunged. Claws extended, teeth bared, he aimed for Dominic's throat. Dominic met him with brutal force, their bodies crashing together in a violent blur of fur, muscle, and blood. The sound of snapping jaws and tearing flesh echoed like thunder through the trees. Aurora stumbled back, her chest heaving. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. Every strike, every roar, every drop of blood spilled was because of her. For her. Dominic's strength was unmatched. He moved with lethal precision, each attack calculated to end the fight quickly. But Hunter fought like a cornered beast, wild and desperate. And then Hunter shifted tactics. Through gritted teeth and a bloodied smile, he hissed, You never told her, did you, Dominic? The truth about why you really claimed her? Dominic froze, his fist tightening around Hunter's throat. Aurora's eyes snapped to him, confusion flashing across her face. What truth? She demanded. Hunter laughed bitterly, coughing blood. He didn't take you because he loved you, Aurora. He took you because of what you are. A hybrid. A weapon. The only one powerful enough to unite or destroy every pack. You're not his mate, you're his strategy. The words sliced through her like knives. She staggered, her chest tightening. Her eyes flew to Dominic, desperate for denial, for reassurance. But his silence was heavier than any spoken word. Dominic, she whispered, her voice cracking. Tell me it's not true. His jaw clenched. His chest rose and fell with a deep, ragged breath. Finally, his gaze met hers, fierce and unflinching. It began a strategy, he admitted, his voice low but unshaken. I won't lie to you. When I first claimed you, it was because I knew what you carried inside. But, his voice broke, rough something she'd never heard before, fear. But somewhere between the battles and the lies, I stopped seeing you as power, and I started seeing you as mine, not as a weapon, not as leverage, as the woman I cannot let go of. Aurora's knees trembled. Her entire world seemed to tilt. Could she trust him? Could she believe that love had grown from betrayal? Hunter's grin widened, blood staining his teeth. You see, Aurora? You're nothing but a prize passed between rivals. He's no better than me. Something inside her snapped. For years she had been the Omega, the orphan, the rejected one, always defined by what others thought of her, always at the mercy of stronger wolves. No more. Her hybrid blood pulsed like fire through her veins. The earth seemed to hum beneath her feet, the air thickening around her. Both Dominic and Hunter turned their heads toward her as the power radiated from her body. Undeniable, raw, terrifying. No, Aurora said, her voice ringing with a strength she hadn't known she possessed. I'm not a prize. I'm not a weapon. And I will never be either of your pawns again. Hunter's smirk faltered. Dominic's eyes widened, awe flickering in his hardened gaze. Aurora stepped forward, her power pressing against both alphas like a storm. You rejected me, Hunter. You tried to break me. And you, her gaze flicked to Dominic, trembling with emotion, you claimed me with half-truths. But now I claim myself. The wind howled, the moon blazed, and with a roar that shook the night, Aurora shifted. Not into the form of a wolf, but something greater. Her hybrid form burst forth, fur shimmering silver, eyes glowing with twin shades of gold and blue, taller, stronger, more fearsome than either alpha. Hunter staggered back in horror. What? What are you? Aurora's lips curled into a snarl. Your end. With a speed neither man could match, she struck. Her claws tore across Hunter's chest, her power burning through him like fire. He screamed, collapsing to the ground, broken and defeated. Silence fell. Only Dominic remained standing before her, chest heaving, bloodied but alive. He looked at her not with fear, but with reverence. Slowly, he sank to one knee, bowing his head. You are more than an alpha, he whispered. You are the future, and I would follow you, not because of what you are, but because of who you are. Aurora shifted back, her body trembling, her heart heavy. She stared at Dominic, torn between betrayal and truth, between the man who had used her and the man who had bowed to her. But for the first time in her life, the choice was hers. Aurora lifted her chin, her voice steady, her heart certain. Then follow me as my equal, Dominic. Not my rival, not my master, my equal, or not at all. For a moment, silence hung between them. Then slowly, Dominic rose to his feet, his dark eyes softening with something rare, something raw. He reached for her hand, and for the first time since her rejection, Aurora didn't feel like an omega, or a pawn, or a weapon. She felt like the alpha she was always meant to be. The moon bathed them both in its light, as if blessing the bond forged not from dominance or desperation, but from choice. The war was over, but Aurora's story was only just beginning.